What can I do? Number one, don't you dare disengage. I know it's been tempting for many folks, especially over this last weird year or so in this country, to just sort of disconnect and disengage and just pretend like, nothing weird is happening. My mom, who lives in Florida, the day after the election, didn't get out of bed. Anybody else not get out of bed? I've heard that from so many people. I just can't understand what's happening. It's like all the stuff that I thought was better is all worse than it ever was. Well, I gotta tell you, the people in my world who haven't gotten out of bed, who had no problem getting out of bed, and who in fact think that those of us who are having a hard time getting out of bed, those folks are people of color. They're like, we gotta go to work. There's a certain amount of privilege involved with being able to say, you know what, I just don't want to deal. There are people who don't have that privilege. So don't take yours. Check it. We cannot disengage at this critical moment in the life of our world, our nation, our church. We cannot disengage. And here's the thing. Scripture, God tells us through Scripture that we need to be engaged because Paul says in Romans 13, the way he puts it is, you need to be subject to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except from God. Now, just sit with that just for a minute. There is no authority except from God. We can't disengage from our government because our government has authority from God. Now, I just want to unpack this a little bit, because that doesn't mean we have to like everything our government does. I don't know if there's a way to get that slide up on the big screens. Is anyone behind the curtain listening? I don't know. Maybe they'll get it there. Hey, there we go. Awesome, thank you. So Romans 13 lays out some things that as people of God who are Christians, we need to be doing. Pay your taxes. Be a good citizen. Respect and honor those in authority when it is due. Honor those to whom it is due. That's what Paul says. Respect those to whom it is due. And hold our leaders accountable. See this fancy diagram, if you can follow it. Can those of you in the back see? That was good. So what this diagram says is, right up at the top here, it says, all authority comes from God. That's Romans 13, verse 1. All authority comes from God. What that means is that the government is God's servant. That's Romans 13, verse 6. The government is God's servant. And God's servants are expected to do what is holy and acceptable to God. What does that mean? Well, all Romans chapter 1 to 11, it's all about how God sets us free through Christ. Once you get to chapter 12, it's all about what is expected of those who have been set free. What is expected of those who live under God's authority. And here are some examples from Romans. Those of us who live under God's authority, including our government, are expected to be humble and sober. Are expected to use gifts for the good of the community, are expected to give to those in need, are expected to live in harmony with one another, to leave vengeance to the Lord, to welcome those who are different, to make peace. Those who live under God's authority, including the government, are expected to not impose our religion on others. Okay, you can get rid of the slide now. Man behind the curtain. Are you following me?
Yes.
Are you with me?
Yes.
Our government is expected to live under God's authority, and the scriptures are very clear about what that looks like. Be humble and sober. Use the gifts we have for the good of the community. Give to those in need. Leave vengeance to the Lord. Welcome those who are different. Make peace. Don't impose your religion on others. What happens when our government is not doing what is holy and acceptable to God? Hold them accountable. That's our job. This whole idea that there's somehow some big difference between church and state, between religion and politics, that is a false dichotomy. We all live under the authority of God. All of us. Our president, our Congress, our governors, our state legislators. How many of you are shaking in your boots right now? I love you too. We have the responsibility as the people of God, through Jesus Christ, to hold each other accountable, including and starting with our government. And when our government is wrong, we dare not disengage. We cannot sit in our pews and pray for our government unless we are also willing to speak truth to power. So what can you do? Well, first of all, I want to send you to a website called boulderadvocacy.org. boulderadvocacy.org. This is a group of mostly lawyers who volunteer their time to help nonprofit organizations and churches and faith-based organizations understand what they can and cannot do in terms of advocacy, in terms of political action. And let me tell you, it's a lot more than we've been led to believe. It's a lot more than probably what you think. Here's what you can't do as a church, as a body. Here's what you cannot do. You cannot endorse candidates. That's about it. Seriously, that's about it. When it comes to the issues that affect us all, when it comes to dealing with poverty, when it comes to addressing the flaws in our criminal justice system, when it comes to issues of peace and war, when it comes to, you name a topic, making sure our kids can go to college, making sure our public schools are protected so that even children in poverty can get a good education. Any single issue that you care about, you as the church can speak truth into that public square. In fact, you are required to by God. So go visit that website. Think about forming an advocacy committee in your congregation. Think about actually being intentional as the people of God in your congregation about having civil discourse about the issues that we care about. Think about being able to, I don't know, speak with one voice about any one issue. Think about the difference that could make in your community. Do you have a crazy school board that's always fighting with each other? I do. Your congregation could show up at that school board en masse and demand that the members of that school board act civilly and do what is best for the kids. You can do that. In fact, you are required to do that by God if you believe Romans 13. Partner with some nonpartisan groups like the League of Women Voters or the YWCA in your community. Host public forums, candidate forums. Ask all the candidates who are running for office to come together and talk about the issues that you care about. Make sure you're registered to vote and that you vote in every election in every single race. Do your civic duty. Be a good citizen. And by the way, how many of you are snowbirds? How many of you are snowbirds? Those of you who live in places like Minnesota and Washington State, Seattle, we could really use your votes in places like Arizona. If you live in Arizona for 6 months out of the year, you live in Arizona. All right, number 2, what can I do? This is what the kids say today. Get woke. Anybody heard that expression? Get woke. Paul says in Romans 13, you know what time it is, how it is now the moment for you to wake up from your sleep, for salvation is nearer to you than when we became believers. The night is far gone, and the day is near. I can't even begin to tell you how asleep I was before I went out into the desert. I grew up in Hammond, Indiana. Anybody know Hammond? Yay, Hammond. Hammond, East Chicago, Gary, south side of Chicago, northwest Indiana, very diverse place. I grew up in a neighborhood that was on the side of the street I lived on, all Mexican, and the other side of the street, all Polish. Christmas was awesome. Tamales and pierogies for Christmas. The schools I went to had African American kids and Mexican kids, and then I went to Valparaiso University. Okay. And then I became an ELCA pastor. And I don't know, that's about when I stopped seeing people of color. The churches that I was part of, the towns I lived in, I had no idea, actually, how utterly and completely removed from most of the human race I had become. Then I went to the desert. And I can remember driving, I can't remember where I was going, but I was driving from Tucson. I think maybe I was driving from Tucson to San Diego. Like my first sort of, little long weekend. It's about a 6-hour drive. I needed to see water. And I can remember, we were driving along, and it was really the first time that I had been far out of town. And crossing from Arizona to California, we had to go through a border patrol stop. And I was like, I'm from Chicago. You don't have to go through a border patrol stop when you go from Illinois to Iowa. I'm like, this isn't the border. This is Arizona and California. Now that I've lived in Arizona for a while, I can understand why Californians might not want us coming in. But what I came to realize is that once you get, about 20 miles outside of Tucson, you have to go through border stops on all the major roads. Now, I've also learned that if you look like me, When you pull up to that border stop, the Border Patrol agent kind of looks in the window, sees my big blue eyes, and says, "Have a nice day." My COO, Liz Bravago, who grew up in Mexico in a cardboard house and a dirt floor, who came to the United States for a better life. Liz became an American citizen 2 years ago. She has all American-born kids. She is so proud to be an American. She was so proud to vote in her first election. She went through a border patrol, one of these border patrol things in the middle of nowhere on a road in Arizona not long ago. She got pulled over. They made her get out of the car, they searched the car. She said, "I'm an American citizen." Pull over. Made her get out of the car, searched it. She's standing out there in the dust and the heat. You know what made them so suspicious? Liz was alone driving, but she had 2 cups in her cup holders. She had a bottle of water and a coffee cup. There must be someone in here hiding. I can't even begin to tell you how asleep I was before I went to the desert. Absolutely clueless about how most of the world lives. After the election in November, so many people were so distraught. My colleagues and my friends, women of color, they're like, "You know what? This is kind of making me sick." Because nothing about this surprised us. This is reality. This has always been our America. Our people have been shoved off of their lands. Our people were chained on boats. Our people were lynched. Our people are being killed today by your police force. What's everybody so surprised about? I was so asleep before I went to the desert. You know, this is a terrible fact. This is true. Did you know that researchers have shown that white people actually sleep better and get more sleep than anybody else? For real. White people get more hours of sleep every night and deeper sleep than anybody else. You can understand why, right? Because so many folks, people of color, they're working 3 jobs, they're working jobs, cleaning our houses. Their bodies are sore. They're worried. People of color who have more money than God worry about sending their kids out into the world. White people sleep better. That ought to wake us up. We are, so many of us, so sound asleep. I know, you know, when I come to things like this, I get all fired up and then I want to go home and change the world. Go home and change you. Go home and change your own understanding. Work to open your own eyes. Work to open your own heart. Learn more. Don't ask your friends of color to help you. Use Google. Seriously, Google things like, what do white people need to know about race? I'm serious. Type that in Google. You'll get really great stuff. Google, what books should white people read about race? What movies should white people watch about race? There are lists that very nice people of color have put together for us. It's all out there on the internet. Go find it. Maybe start a movie club in your congregation. You like to go to the movies, right? You can rent them on Netflix. Have a group of people over to watch 13th or Hidden Figures and talk about it. Start a book club that's really focused on these issues. There are some really accessible and wonderful and important books. Find a YWCA near you that has a racial justice program, or join a SURGE group. SURGE stands for Standing Up for Racial Justice. Or start a SURGE group in your community. Go onto the ELCA website, the Women of the ELCA website, and look for resources on how to talk about these issues and tackle these issues. Get woke. Number 3, decide right now to be good rather than nice. Now, for some of you, not being nice is going to be easy. Not that I met any of you in the last 12 hours. Not being nice doesn't mean being a jerk. I was a young pastor, just out of seminary, sent to called to a, shackled to a, no, that's not true. To an open country church in the middle of north central Illinois. Old German farmers. And I was so naive. They had a Saturday night worship service that had like 15 people that would come. And I have this genetic disability. I can't not grow things. It's a problem I have. I'm like, we can make this bigger. I know we're in the middle of nowhere, and it's the fastest declining county in the state of Illinois, and I know we have more hogs than people that live around us, but we can make this grow. And so I had a conversation with the ushers before that summer Saturday night worship service, and I said, you know how everybody, all those 15 people always sit in the last 2 pews? It feels so lonely when I'm all the way up there and they're all the way back there. It's just weird. You know, when folks come in tonight, would you mind just asking them if they wouldn't mind sitting up more closer to the front? I was such a babe. I mean, I didn't say rope off the back pews. Just, would you mind just asking? And the church, this old white, tall white with the bell church, sat on one corner, and the parsonage sat on the other corner. And so as I was coming out of the parsonage to come on over to the church to get, do worship, I got to the bottom of the stairs of the church, and Alvin and his wife came flying out of the doors. And he was like flying right down the stairs and at me. He was, I don't know, he was like 90, but he was moving. And he was swinging his cane like this. And he said, "We're never coming back here again." Oh. And they didn't. That, when I say stop being nice, that's not what I mean. I don't mean be a jerk. What's the difference between being nice and being good? Well, nice avoids controversy, runs from conflict. Nice says, that's okay, even when it's not. Nice doesn't risk upsetting the status quo. Nice lets you run all over you, all over her. Good does what matters. Good knows that there are more important things than your reputation, more important things than, your bank balance. Good loves everyone. Everyone. Especially those who are being hurt or put down. Good speaks up even when she's scared to death. We don't need nice in this church or in this world. We need good people. A friend of mine told me about being at a fundraising event last year. $300 a plate fundraiser. These were the top 1%, mostly white, progressive people in Tucson at this fundraiser. I wasn't there. My friend is African American. She was there with her 12-year-old daughter, sitting around this beautiful table. She had $600 worth of seats at that table. She was sitting next to an attorney in town, a lawyer who happens to manage a foundation that was started by a woman, a wealthy woman, who left her money to help women and children in town. And this foundation has given millions of dollars away. He has given millions of dollars away. He's white. Everyone else at the table was white. When dessert came, it was served family style, so it was set in the middle of the table so that folks could pass it around. He said to my friend, who is black, said to her daughter, who is black, "You should serve us."
Oh, brother.
My friend, who is definitely not nice, said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "She should serve us." And she said, "I'm sorry, why should she serve you?" And this turned into a very ugly confrontation at the table. Very ugly, public confrontation. He never backed down. He didn't apologize. He never acknowledged anything he had said was wrong. But here's the worst thing. Around that table, all people that knew her, know her, friends, all around that table, there was silence. No one spoke up. That's what nice looks like. We don't need more nice. I don't know, find a good buddy. Find a buddy, I'm serious, who's not nice, but is good. Find a good buddy and practice on each other. Call each other out on things. Practice on each other. Support each other and hold each other accountable. Have the conversation in your church about how nice might be really killing you, and how what you really need to do is to be good. And then vote to become a no niceness zone. When you're sitting at a table like the table my friend was at, speak up. Even if it scares the heck out of you. Speak up. And tell your pastor, when you go home, maybe this is the most important thing I can say to you today. When you go home, tell your pastor that you will have her back if she leaves nice behind for good, too. Because I think being nice is killing the pastors in this church. I think it's literally sucking